Welcome. Thanks for watching today. The ability for public sector agencies to capitalize on artificial intelligence and machine learning tools depends on assembling and curating data as quickly as agencies possibly can, and doing that reliably from a bunch of different locations. That's why agencies are using the combined capabilities of Equinix data centers and Verizon's high-speed networks to process and analyze today's massive amounts of data in real time to deliver faster and more meaningful mission outcomes. Talk about that today. I'm pleased to welcome Ramesh Menon. He's the Chief Technology Officer at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Voruganti is Senior Fellow at Equinix, and Bryan Schromsky, Managing Partner at Federal Government and Public Safety at Verizon Wireless. Welcome to all of you. Ramesh, I want to start with you. Agencies are dealing with tons of data and using artificial intelligence to manage all of that. How are you working through some of those biggest hurdles that you have doing those things at the Defense Intelligence Agency?
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for the question. Obviously, data is very essential for what we do at Defense Intelligence Agency. We are the foundational military intelligence for the country. We provide our intelligence report to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to the Congress, to the warfighters in the field, and the core integration between our partners and allies, especially the 5I partners. So data is the core foundation of what we do, and we are building modern digital platforms to ensure we extract the value from this data and leveraging technologies like cloud computing and modern networks, including our commercial partners, to extend those networks to the edge and reach out to the places to ensure that our mission is successful. So, and as you probably know, we are the provider and owner of the JVIC's top secret network fabric.
Cal, welcome. Thanks for joining the conversation today. What are you seeing regarding the challenges that Ramesh talked about a moment ago, or other challenges that our agencies are running up against parsing all this data?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. The first thing we are noticing is that a lot of agencies are dealing with now data sets which are extremely large in size. So rather than moving data to where the compute is located, now the paradigm is shifting. You are moving compute to where the data is located. So increasingly, we are seeing hybrid and distributed architectures. That's point number one. Second thing we're noticing is that organizations for AI increasingly are using external data sources or data sets to create more accurate AI models. So they are very worried about the lineage of the data. Where is this data set coming from, right? And also, if they're using other pre-existing models, using transfer learning, they're worrying about, hey, is this model, does it have any, biases against certain type of people or certain type of situations, right? So lineage of information is also extremely important, and they're asking us for solutions which keep track of the lineage. And the last thing we are noticing is that increasingly agencies are dealing with coalition partners globally. So they need to have solutions where their solution spans across different countries and different regions of the world. So they want a single provider to be able to give them locations globally, and also secure network fabrics interconnecting all of these different locations.
Bryan, welcome. Thanks for joining the conversation. Cal's talking about distributed computing, and is the concept that a lot of organizations the term they're using to describe what Cal just laid out. At first, there was a lot of conversation about the risk involved, but there's a risk in keeping everything centralized and keeping all your data centralized and sending it out, isn't there?
Yeah, good question, Francis, and to two fellow panelists. I mean, it's an interesting topic, moving data. As the two have already previously mentioned, what we see now is actually moving that data closer to the edge itself, right? So when you look at war fighters, right, getting the information they need in a timely manner, how do you do that, right? So not only do we not want to lock up that data, we actually want to unlock that data and actually get it closer to the edge, right? So that's why you hear new terms of taking cloud computing over the last couple of years, because now you're hearing edge computing, right? Is actually taking that data center and moving it closer to the edge. And technologies like 5G, which everybody's excited about, is actually transferring that data in a faster method. So yeah, it's a real problem today, right? How do we unleash that data? And more importantly, get it down to the field, if you will, but most importantly, in a secure manner, right? Because this is going to be critical infrastructure that we're talking about here, right? So as we look over the next couple of years, we get into autonomous vehicles, and we're not talking about drones, right? Think about forklifts and, for instance, a army warehouse, right? You're going to want that data out there quickly so they can move men, women, material in and out of that facility. You're going to need a lot of data. More importantly, you're going to need a lot of connectivity to actually make that a reality. So we only see it exponentially increasing, but most importantly, as Cal mentioned, right, the integrity of the data, but how do you secure that data as well?
Cal, there's a lot going on here regarding how that data gets to where it's supposed to go. And one of those big challenges is how that data is shared across organizations, maybe from one military branch to another, or one agency or a bureau of an agency to another, right?
Yes, absolutely. And what we are noticing is the era of what we call as AI marketplaces, where different organizations can basically have a marketplace notion where they can advertise the data that they want to share, and consumers can actually get data from that location. And it's not just for data, but it's also for algorithms. So that is a notion which I think increasingly will become more prevalent, to not only allow for data sharing between different organizations, but even within an organizations, different groups, they're hesitant to share data with each other. Data is like your crown jewel. So they're extremely protective about it. So the notion of AI marketplaces, data marketplaces is going to be becoming more and more common. And just like you go to any Amazon or any other shopping site and you buy and sell books and other perishables, data and AI algorithms will also be shared in a systematic manner in a marketplace, which is driven underneath the covers by technologies like blockchain to keep track of who's doing what, etc.
Ramesh, how are you seeing that interplay, that exchange of data playing out at DIA?
Francis, good question. I tend to concur with Kaladhar in his thinking. Architecturally, we do a couple of things. We have common data fabrics, cross-domain solutions to make sure how we move from low to high, high to low, all the data classification levels. Obviously, data sharing in DoD is a little bit more complicated because we have different levels of trust and how it's being used in the mission, who has the authority. So we take this data sharing very seriously. It's integrated into our architecture. As we extend our data centers with hybrid multi-cloud, we are making sure that we have a common data fabric. In fact, I'm working closely with General Groen, the director of JAIC, to make sure we stand up the Joint Common Foundation, the JCF, where we should be able to share the AI models. So this data, we use the data for training, and then we use the trained AI models for inferences in the applications, mission applications. So we can share not only the data, but we could share the models or the APIs, which has the actual inference and the application that can be consumed by your mission partners or mission applications.
What are you doing, and what works for you to federate data analytics so that you can use AI to its full potential, Ramesh?
So I would say I'm not going to make a decision based on just data. It depends on the mission need and priorities of the country, and the architectural decisions should be following the mission needs and the speed of relevance for what is required for the mission, and the underlying mission requirements drive the architecture. Although we have common, broad, distributed collection hubs and fabrics, and they're all integrated, but we need to know how to use it effectively on a specific mission set.
Cal, the term AI from anywhere is a concept that is taking hold across the federal government. How can agencies leverage that concept and maybe do a proof of concept to see how it's going to work for them?
Right. So we have created a AI Anywhere stack along with our partners. And essentially what it lets you do is a couple of things. First, it lets organizations or agencies to share data and AI algorithms with each other in a distributed way. So what I mean by that is that organizations do not have to let the data, which is in their security perimeter, they don't have to let the raw data out of that location. Instead, what we do is that we bring algorithm to that location, get local models built, and those local models are aggregated in a central location. So essentially what we let you do is that share your data insights, but not the raw data. And so we have this AI or Analytics Anywhere stack that different organizations can come, and we basically have a governance model that they need to basically template that they need to fill out to see what are the rules about sharing data, how do you resolve conflicts, etc. for data sharing. Once they fill that template, then basically we can onboard them, and then basically they can actually start sharing data between the different organizations. And it's all automated so that they don't need to do heavy lifting.
Bryan, what is unique about that relationship with you and Cal and his organization that agencies can leverage? What makes it different from other cloud services, and how does an agency benefit from that?
Thanks, Francis, for the question. So we do a lot of collaboration with Equinix today. Obviously, being a large network provider, right, we actually handle about 75% of all internet traffic, right, touches a Verizon network, so that is massive. So you can imagine the huge range of share from one location to another, right? So our integration with their platform, and actually as we see more cloud providers and using Equinix and Verizon and doing all those interconnects, right, from the Amazons, the Microsofts, the IBMs, the Googles, all those different cloud providers, as well as hosted environments as well that agencies have themselves, right? So in some cases, they still want to keep within the four walls, right? So our partnership is growing, which is exciting. And actually having two long-standing known providers in this space makes it easier for agencies to actually work with us and trust, right? Being US-based and having a clear cybersecurity mindset, and understanding the problems of, as we were talking about here, right, unlocking the data. I think I would go back to one of your earlier questions. I mean, one of the things we focus on all the technology, right? AI, I mentioned her, blockchain, 5G. It's still the fundamental basics, right? It's things like integrity, information sharing, aka data sharing, right? And unfortunately, we're living right now in the pandemic, right? How do we get those, those numbers right now? We're seeing a variant spike, right? The coordination between the CDC, the coordination with all the different health departments at a state level, and then you get down to local level, right? And there's a long-standing history of doing this, not just, and also in law enforcement, we see with Homeland or DOJ working with state and local law enforcement, and USDA working with different farm bureaus on a county level, right? So we have a long history in this country of actually doing great things and sharing information. I think this technology will hopefully make it better and easier. And the partnership that we have with Equinix is just a testimonial of that working relationship.
Bryan, Cal, Ramesh, great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
Thanks,
And thank you,
Francis.
team.